Winter Hill is surrounded by towns and villages that seem to have its fair share of strange and unknown accounts. Here are a few of them accounts from paranormal and cryptid researcher Mick McLaren. Some are part of his research and some where people have sent to him their own accounts. Let's start not far from the home of the researcher. Smithills Hall. A Grade 1 listed building on the grounds of Smithills Country Park, which covers more than 2,000 acres and extends from the hall itself, and up to Winter Hill. Smithills, not just famous for its grandeur and beauty. The atmosphere in the building and its long history seems to inspire ghost stories, some of which are documented here. Considering its long history, over the years there have been many spooky sightings, and odd experiences at Smithills Hall. The hall was passed on to the Barton family in 1485, and was home to them for almost 200 years. During the War of the Roses, John Barton fought and died at the Battle of St. Albans. In the Great Hall, a reputed psychic reported seeing a strange-looking man and a woman, both of whom appeared to be in 15th-century dress. The man appeared to be strong, whilst the woman seemed to be distressed. Could this unexplained experience be connected to the fate of John Barton? Following his trial as a Protestant during the reign of the devoted Catholic Queen, Mary Tudor, Bolton farmer, George Marsh was brought before Robert Barton, then the owner of the estate, in the hall's green room. George was later burned at the stake on the 24th of April 1555. A visitor has related that, on a visit to Smithills as a child, he noticed a man at the top of the stairs to the green room. As a result, when the museum attendant announced to the visitor's family that it was locking up time, the visitor mentioned there was also a man upstairs. To his amazement, the attendant explained that the family were the only visitors left in the hall. To this day the visitor is convinced that the only explanation is that the man upstairs was George Marsh. The green room where George Marsh was questioned is considered to be the most haunted room at Smithills. There have also been unexplained encounters in the chapel. One day, one of the friends of Smithills Hall, who was in the building before it was opened to the public, entered the chapel and saw that there was someone already in there kneeling in prayer. On meeting a colleague in the corridor, he mentioned that there was also someone in the chapel. The colleague went to have a look and returned to say that there was no one there. More recently, a member of staff removing some dead flowers from the chapel was pushed from behind into the wall with such force that they received grazes. At one time a Pugin mirror used to hang in the hall's shop. One day the shop manager happened to glance in the mirror and spotted that there was a man watching from the doorway, dressed in black with white bushy hair. The manager turned around, but the man was not there. The manager saw the same man again twice, with the third sighting taking place on the stairs. Was the man in black one of the Ainsworths, who inherited the house in 1870? In Colonel Ainsworth's room, when the hall is opened up in the mornings, the staff often have to set the glasses on the table back in their right place, as during the night they have somehow been moved or turned upside down. There are many other unusual and unexplained happenings which staff, volunteers and visitors experience regularly. The barrier ropes in the museum often swing of their own accord, as if someone has just brushed past them. Staff members have also heard the meowing of cats and the giggling of children, when cats and children are nowhere to be seen. Even after you have walked out through the doors, you are not safe from the supernatural, as unexplained events and experiences have also occurred in the grounds outside the hall. During the last week of May in 1644, Prince Rupert's troops, having relieved the siege of Latham House, stormed Bolton town, putting people to the sword. However, some of the population did manage to flee to safety, either on foot or horseback. A member of staff who worked at the hall when it was a residential home, later described how the sounds of horses passing the house were heard regularly, going on late into the night. However, when the noises were heard, anyone checking would see no sign of either horses or riders. The hall was a residential home between the 1930s and the 1990s. One summer a local theatre company performed at the hall. On one occasion the director arrived early, and was enjoying the evening sunshine, when he heard the sound of footsteps coming across the gravel towards him. The director turned to find out who it was. But there seemed to be no one there. Let's now head over to the east side of Winter Hill, to the town of Horwich. To an account Mick received from a resident of the town.
Hello Mick. I've seen you post on a Facebook page, and want to share an experience I had back in 1984, when I was 16-17 years old. At the time I worked at the motorway services, and used to be picked up by a works minibus at the Crown in Horwich at 6 a.m. each day. If I was late, the minibus would have gone, which meant I would have to walk or run to work. The quickest way was down the steps at the top of Crown Lane, and across Bob's Brew Fields to Squirrel Lane, then through the farmyard down a track to the services. One morning I was late, and it was still dark, and I got to the bottom of the steps, and there was a huge black dog there. I noticed its eyes first, clearly like shining amber, despite it being dark, and surrounded by trees, and I stopped, feeling a bit nervous to go past it. There was no light shining on the dog to make its eyes stand out like this. I tried to shoo it away, but it just stood there. When I went closer to try and go past it, it turned and walked off in the direction I was going. Because I'd been late for work a few times, due to late night socializing, I was anxious not to be late and followed the dog. Across one field and through a gap, then onto a dirt track up to the bridge to Squirrel Lane. The dog kept in front of me the whole time. In the short time I had to look at the ground after crossing the bridge and up a slope to Squirrel Lane, the dog had disappeared. I didn't think much of it at the time, and just thought it must have belonged to the farm, but there was a niggling feeling inside that I would have seen it on Squirrel Lane had it lived at the farm. Squirrel Lane has hedgerows on either side, and there was nowhere the dog could go other than up or down the lane, and I would have seen it. Also, the farm gates were usually locked, and the only way over was a climb over stile, which a dog couldn't do. I saw this dog about 4 or 5 times in all, always at the same place, and always lost sight of it at the same place too. I used to talk to it, and tried to stroke it, but it seemed to glide ahead, and was always just out of reach. It never made a sound, not even its feet in the mud, even when I was sloshing and squidging in the mud, no panting even. I almost felt peaceful with this dog, as if it was escorting me, like it was a friend keeping me safe. Many years later I was reading a book at the Paranormal, and black dogs were mentioned. So, whether I was accompanied by a ghostly black dog, or whether it was actually real, I do not know. If it was real, I'm sure I would have heard some sound coming from it, or it would have sniffed me, or let me stroke it.
Not far from this spot, we have another account from another resident.
My dad swore he saw a UFO over the pike way back in the 60s. Even 30 years later he would not be swayed from that opinion. Also, when I was a kid, we lived in a terraced street off the bottom of Lever Park Avenue in Horwich. I saw as clear as day, a big ball of light that shot up the street, followed by several smaller balls. My dad said it was ball lightning. That would have also been in the late 60s. Do you know if there was any record of ball lightning around that time in Horwich? Because I really thought it was to do with a UFO.
On the outskirts of Horwich, halfway up Winter Hill, is a road that heads towards Rivington Pike. Just before we get to a wooded area called Wilder's Wood, there is a field at the end of a row of houses and bungalows where you are going to hear a phone conversation between Mick McLaren and a witness from Horwich talking of an event she had in that area at the age of 14.
When I was 14, and I know what I saw, but it was, you see, my friend lived on George's Lane,
Yeah.
and we were just messing about in the field at the end of the cottages. Well, you know, the bungalows, the
Yeah.
last bungalow. We was in that field and we were just like messing about with horses, stroking horses and everything. And then all of a sudden I just got surrounded by this mist.
Yeah.
And it was like halfway up the field and my friend was just a few metres away and I just got surrounded by this mist and I couldn't see out of this mist and all of a sudden I heard this horse rear up and I just looked up the field and I saw this it looked real, like an apparition, but looked real as well. It was like in between, it was like a grey white, and I looked and it was a horse rearing up on its side as though it was looking down at me.
Right.
And I remember what time it were. It were about dusk. It were 7:15 at night. I just remember between 7:15 and 7:15 at night.
Yeah.
And then, as he was looking down at me, I remember seeing all this chainmail up his leg, and these boots that he had on, and it was like an armour, like a suit of armour. And when I looked towards his head, it was just all mist. You couldn't see his head or anything; it was just mist. But what I think it is, there's a Bronze Age burial ground across the moors, which goes towards Anglesark.
You on about Roundloaf?
And I know it sounds silly, and they go on about Headless Horseman and everything, but I think it comes from the Bronze Age burial ground.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm almost sure because it's just little things that that I've seen, and I mean I have a friend. Well, he's like a half cousin, and I put it on Facebook, and he saw exactly what I saw.
Yeah.
And he said he saw it near the Chinese Gardens. He said he saw it racing across the Chinese Gardens. Exactly the same thing what I saw. And he said so. He said it's definitely true. And I mean, a lot of people when they walk on the moors, which they call Noon Hill at the back,
Yeah.
have heard horses' hooves and run past them. There's been nothing there.
Yeah, me and my partner were up near Great Hill a few months back, and we heard horses' hooves. We looked around us, and there were nothing around.
How long ago was that?
This was about 2 months ago.
And whereabouts was it?
Great Hill, like where Noon Hill is, and
Yeah, that's
you
it.
go
Well,
down into the valley. It's
yeah.
hill opposite there.
Well, apparently you're supposed to haunt all around Noon Hill around there. And I mean, the thing is, I didn't even know about this ghost or apparition. Anyway, when I saw it, I just ran down the field and I said to my friend, run. So we got on the lane on George's Lane and we started running up the lane to the terraced houses where she lived.
Yeah.
And we went in and, just to tell her dad what I saw. And he said, oh, you've seen the Headless Horseman. And he just come out with it like that, so he must know it's true. So whether it is the Headless Horseman or, I got these pictures up about a Bronze Age, and it showed these blokes on these horses, and it was exactly the same as what I saw. Did you get that picture that I sent?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did see it.
That's what I saw, and it was a white horse with somebody. This bloke on it, and I mean, all I can explain is that I know what I saw. He had all chainmail and boots up his leg, and what I think he was doing, I think he was letting me know that he was there because we shouldn't have been in that field. And to me, I feel that he was protecting them horses in the field, and that's what I think.
Right. This is a field that's at the side of that last bungalow.
Yeah, and he was halfway up on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have been in that field. So I got that impression that he was trying to say he shouldn't be in this field, and he was protecting them horses that were in that field. And that was my feeling, what I felt that I got, to be honest. But, I mean, I've never seen anything since, But also, I'm going back years ago. There was an article in the Bolton Evening News, and it wasn't about the Headless Horseman. It showed an apparition walking down the steps of the Chinese Gardens, and it showed a picture. I mean, I've not got it or anything, but I'm going back years and years ago,
Yeah.
and because I mean, it could have been Lord Levy and whatever, but there was an apparition walking down the steps of the Chinese Gardens. So there's quite a lot of things going on up there.
Yeah, there is. I've heard quite a lot of stories from around Rivington.
Well, it is true what I saw. I mean, I don't tell a lot of people because a lot of people won't believe you, but it is definitely true. It's not a myth or anything like that.
Yeah.
I know what I saw, and I mean, I'm from Horwich. I've lived in Horwich all my life.
Yeah.
And I used to live near Rivington School. I used to live like near that field where it backs onto the fields, and I just live a little bit away now from not far. But we used to always be up Rivington, and because my friend lived on George's Lane.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I've never seen anything like that before.
No. And you've not seen anything since like that?
No, I've not seen anything since. I mean, I've heard what people say. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that they've seen a man on horseback, 5 lads in a car, coming down by the millstone.
Yeah.
They've seen a bloke on horseback in old-fashioned uniform.
Yeah, I have heard a few stories about this.
But you see, there's from where the millstone is, there is a tunnel that goes under from the farm at the top, and apparently I've been told that it goes through the fireplace, which they've bricked up, and the tunnel goes right underneath to the millstone. And I think it's where the monks used to walk and go under because it was safer. And then there were stories about a monk that got trapped inside that tunnel. So you just hear all these stories, but there was like apparitions, and I don't know if you know about that.
No, I've not heard that one, no.
Right, because also, you know where the Headless Cross is at the millstone?
Is this the one, I'm trying to think, right at the end of Horwich, going towards Chorley, around where the pub is?
Yeah, well, in the 1970s, they had a séance because they had to get rid of, they were seeing things, I don't know if it was everything like New Year. They were seeing things were happening round about that stone, so they had to have a séance and to get rid of it. I mean, I have got the book somewhere, and it explains all about it, and it's round about the... you'll see it, the Headless Cross house is up by the millstone, and just facing the Headless Cross house is the stone, but part of the stone's missing. It used to be like a body, but it's all in different areas now. I think there's a part in Liverpool, but this stone, it's been near the parish church, it's been in Ridgemont House, but it used to be haunted. But like I said, because they've had this apparition a few times, they had to get a séance, and they had a séance in the 1970s. Everybody got together and they got rid of it.
Right.
I mean, if you go to the barn, in where they have all books and everything, they do have a book about it.
Right.
Somebody might be able to give you some information on it.
Is that
I have got the book somewhere, and I don't know where I've put it.
Yeah.
And it tells you all about the millstone, all about that area.
Yeah.
All the hauntings around there.
Right, I'll go up. This is a bottom barn, isn't it? Where the shop part is, not the shop. The history.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They have some books on and copies which have been made, because I think there's somebody in Horwich that does these copies. And if you go there, they might be able to give you some information about all these ghosts, like round the millstone and the headless, all about the headless cross. But definitely, I think it were a bunch of lads were going up in a car, and they saw this bloke coming down on a brown horse in uniform.
Yeah.
You could check that one out. But definitely the Headless Horseman, what I've seen, I don't know if it's the Headless Horseman, but I really think it is Bronze Age.
Right,
And it comes from that Bronze Age burial ground, which is across Angles Arc. I've never been to it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, we went over there in the summer, while it was nice, because it's quite a long walk, isn't it? Yeah. And you can see it from you can see it from all around, really, can't you? It's like a wart sticking up on the horizon.
I mean, there is a few other things on Nunil, like I don't know if you've heard about. There's a dog that's supposed to be a haunting Nunil round there, about a dog, and somebody got killed up there years ago.
On Nunil itself, around that area.
I think this bloke who were walking from Belmont, and I think he was from up Scotland. I'm going back years ago.
Oh, right, yeah.
Did you hear about that?
The Scotchman stump.
Yeah. I mean, there's that, but there is quite a few things about the Chinese Gardens, Lord Leverhulme as well. I do remember taking my dog up there once when it were really snowy. And, I've not got the same dog now. It's a different dog what I've got now. But I remember there were nobody up there in Chinese Gardens. This is another thing that happened to me. And as I was walking along through the Chinese Gardens, there were like a row of hedges. And as I was walking at the side of the hedges, and I was just walking along, the snow was falling off the edges as I was walking along. It was as though somebody were flicking out snow across the edges as I was walking. That happened to me as well.
Right, yeah, there is a lot around the Chinese Gardens. A lot of things happening.
Yeah. Well, what annoys me is people saying that this Headless Horseman black thing is a myth, and it's not a myth, it's true, because I've seen it and other people have seen it as well. And like I say, I've sent you those photos, and that's exactly what I saw.
Yeah.
But I know what I saw, and really then, as a kid at 14, you weren't really into your history, but I was just describing, because they always say that kids, youngins, that they see more things like that. Other than older people, as you get older, you don't see much really. It's younger ones are like immune to see ghosts and stuff. But I know what I saw. And my friend, I told her what I saw because she didn't see it, because I just got surrounded by this mist, and it was in 5 minutes, and I was like in a circle of mist.
Right. It
were a bit frightening really, because I thought, why? I was stood in the middle of the field, and all of a sudden this mist came round me within a few minutes, and I was surrounded, and I heard this horse rear up, and I just looked up the field and I saw it as plain as day. So I feel like he surrounded me by mist so I could see him, and then I just ran downfield.
Right. So how far was your friend away from you then?
Well, she was a bit lower down the field, and she was out of this mist. She wasn't in it.
Yeah.
I'd say she were about 3 or 4 metres lower down the field.
Yeah.
And I just said to her, run. She wasn't in that mist like I was stood. I was just surrounded by mist, and I don't know why it picked me, but that's what happened.
Well, it makes me wonder sometimes whether there's pockets of time that can move around. You were stuck in that time for a bit.
I could have been. You don't know, but I know he surrounded me by mist for me to see him.
Yeah.
And he reared up on. The horse were rearing up on its hind legs, and I heard it. And it was though he was side on looking down at me, but you couldn't see his head. It was just mist.
Right. Yeah.
And so whether they say they call it headless horseman because that's what other people have seen.
Yeah, because you don't.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
saw. It didn't show his head or anything.
Right. Well, that's really interesting. That.
And that's why I did some like my own investigations. I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll get some Bronze Age up on Google it and have a look, and it was exactly what I saw.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, not so much as the suit of armour, but the top part, because I can't remember exactly.
You're talking about the waist downwards. What you said more? Yeah.
Yeah, more what I saw. I mean, I did see, his body, but I can't remember that part. It was just mainly his legs and waist downwards, but when I did look up to the head, it was just mist. That's what I can remember.
Yeah. Well.
But there's no point, when you talk about it, you tell people. Some people believe you, some people don't. It definitely happened to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it's good that I can share it with you and explain what I saw, because I know what I saw. And something like that you don't forget, really, do you?
No, you don't. You don't forget these things when you have different experiences. I've had a few experiences myself, and it's the sort of thing you don't forget.
I mean, I do like watching a lot of paranormal anyway. I do watch a lot. Up and down the country, about haunted houses and different things like that. I am interested in things like that, and I think it's made me more interested since what I saw, really.
Yeah. It does. Your interest peaks even more when when it actually affects you like that.
Yeah, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more to it with those moors. With what's happening, there is a lot of ghosts and things up there, definitely.
Yeah, well, I am doing a lot of investigation of certain things happening around there. You'll be surprised at what does go on up there, from UFOs to...
Oh, yeah, I've heard that as well. Yeah, because it is the highest point up there as well, and we're the highest point over Liverpool.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
So, but definitely, just seek that booklet out, and if they've not got that booklet, there's somebody in Horwich that did write all about it, and they'll be able to give you his name and address.
Yeah.
And you'll probably be able to sort you out something.
Yeah. Is there an historical society in Horwich you know of?
No, it's just somebody that has wrote that book, and I can't remember who it is. I mean, if I do find it, I'll give you a ring and let you know. And I can't remember his name, but I don't know if he lives on Lever Park. But it is somebody that has wrote that all about it.
Yeah.
And all the goings on and sightings and everything of the ghost of Horwich. And my friend that lived on George's Lane, well, she's now moved to Wales. She lives in North Wales now, Festiniog.
Yeah.
But I did mention it to her. I'd not seen her for 30 years, and I saw her for 1 hour in a cafe in Festiniog when I went over a few years ago, because she was in Llandudno and I was in Betsy Cohen, so we met halfway, and I did bring it up to her, and I said, do you remember what happened? She can't remember, but it was that long ago. And I did remind her about it.
Yes.
And that's when she lived up George's Lane, but she, like I say, she's lived in about 30 odd years. She's lived in Festiniog, and that's where she moved to.
Yeah.
North Wales.
Yeah.
Okay then, mate. Well, I'll let you have a good evening now.
All right.
A chilled out one. Well, we've been talking for ages.
Yeah, it's all right. It's a good chat.
Try and get that booklet though if you can.
I will.
All right.
All right then. Thanks a lot
Right.
for that.
Right. Well, take care anyhow, and I'll speak to you again then.
Yeah. Bye then.
Okay. See you, mate. Bye.